Hello everyone. When I started my career in consulting at a small Hamburg-based company, we were doing state-of-the-art projects with our customers. It was amazing to see what multi-dimensional databases could do with vast amounts of data. And we were using natural language query to get to our information. We were migrating legacy management information systems into the latest products available. And we were helping the first citizen developers get their products out to their customers. That gave a huge uplift to my motivation as a consultant. And that was 25 years ago. Oracle Express Server is discontinued. Tools like Q&A without even a graphical UI are nowhere to be found. And migrations from Lotus 123 to Excel 4, thankfully, are a thing of the past. Today, as a solution architect at Hitachi, I'm still as hyped about what I do as back then. And we're still doing all the stuff that I loved back then. Which begs the question, what did we do in all that time? Are we not there yet? Are we not done? Let's shelve that question for a moment and look at a slightly different industry, automotive design. Had I started out an automotive designer 25 years ago, I'd probably have designed quite a lot of cars by now. And I might be standing here asking myself the question, why haven't I designed that car back then? And to pretty much anyone, the answers to those questions are obvious. Progress in technology, slightly outdated regulations, and even trends in what customers want. And looking at the audience here, I'm saying no two of you are driving the exact same car, yet you're using them for pretty similar tasks. And that's what our customers have been doing in the last 25 years. They've been asking us, what car should I buy? And together with them, we've been finding answers to those questions. We've been looking at their business requirements, we've been aligning their business and data strategies, and we've been enabling them to select the right technology for their needs. But we've also seen a vast change in how our customers are doing IT. From those host and data center driven days to the technologies of today like edge computing, the cloud, and even the digital transformation. At first, we saw the operational aspects of IT getting industrialized, pretty much like all other production equipment. After that, there was a push towards having the technological aspects professionalized to do with technology decisions what you do with all strategic decisions. And sometime later, we saw the emergence of a supply chain management for the most important resource that we have in that production facility, our data. And just after that, we're at the CDAO. Analytics came into focus, which is what unearths all the value that's in the data, which transforms it into the actual product that we're using, and which allows us actionable insights. So, for 25 years now, we've seen all that change. And what those years have taught us is that the whole thing is not just a project. And although you may be celebrating milestones, and of course finishing projects in that process, it's a long data journey that our customers are on. And one such journey that we want to highlight today is that of GridServe from the United Kingdom, who have just recently embarked on the next leg of their data journey together with Hitachi Solutions. And I'd like you to welcome Andre Peugeot, CITO of GridServe, who is now going to tell us a bit about their journey.
So thanks very much for being here, Andre. And as Oliver said, it'd be great if we could hear a little bit about what GridServe are doing to make sustainable energy simple.
Thanks, John and Oliver. It's a pleasure to be here. It's not really my usual crowd, but yes, very much a pleasure to be here. I started in technology many years ago. I think when I was a child at school, I was the first person in class to bring a printed Excel table to class instead of drawing it with a ruler and pencil. That was in the 90s, so I'm not sure how many people in this room can relate to that. Before I joined GridServe, I was in institutional banking for a decade in the City of London. And yes, I've been with GridServe now for 3 years. And the mission statement really is to accelerate the transition to sustainable energy. That's the mission statement of the business. And we have 4 pillars in the business that are attempting to do that. We have an EV leasing business, EV charging, grid power and remote power. And we are really vertically integrated across those 4 pillars. We develop and find the land to construct an electric forecourt or a solar farm or any aspect of the estate that we have. And so, as you can imagine, there's a colossal amount of data that is produced from these assets. So yeah, hence.
Yeah, that sounds like quite a mission to me. How did you initially approach the data analytics for GridServe?
Sure. So when I joined 3 years ago, the company was still in the early stages of growth, in the early stages of forming B2B relationships with services that we subscribe to. So applying a data model approach would have been a bit too soon. The initial priority really was in digital transformation. So the focus was on going cloud first, committing to a technology, we chose Microsoft. And the data strategy was very much an organic one, where each particular business unit would be in control of its data in a siloed manner.
So, sounds like a great strategy for a startup when you've got to focus on the operational technology. What made you change your approach to the data strategy side of things? What made you realise that maybe you weren't in the right place?
Okay, so 3 years down the line, accelerated growth of the business, very vertical in fact. The business scaled, being in cloud, you can scale quite happily, but the data strategy was not up to par.
Interesting. How did you realize that, and much more important, what did you do?
Death by Excel spreadsheets. No, it's it was pretty much actually death by Excel spreadsheets. When you ask 3 departments the same question and you get 3 different answers, you can't have confidence or a high degree of confidence in making business decisions from that. So we realised we needed to have a holistic view of what the status was.
So, a holistic view is quite an ambitious target for any kind of business. And take us through the approach, because we met a year ago and we had this conversation. So good to hear from your words kind of what it was that you liked about this holistic view and what it was going to enable you to do.
Yeah. If we understood the status of how we consume and use data, it would give us a good idea of where to gain the most value of following up with a few lighthouse projects, a few proof of concept projects, where we can prove to the business that there is value in taking the management of data very seriously. Buy-in is extremely important, and buy-in has to start at the top of the business. Otherwise, you're on an uphill battle to begin with. And buying is notoriously difficult unless people can trust and see any value that's returned. So yeah, it's not been a particularly easy journey, but piece by piece, pick the proof of concept projects first.
So hearing how that audit came with the outcomes that you could work on, what helped you put that new data strategy in place?
So it's about control, risk and value, isn't it? So you need to have an element of control there to mitigate risks and extract value. And so from a control perspective, the audit yielded a fundamental structure where you'll have a steering committee, which is filled with upper level management in the business that have buy-in to the project that you're with. And then the second tier down from that is you have your in-house data management team, start small, along with a partner that will help you on that journey. And it's iterative. You start with lighthouse projects. You reach the end of the lighthouse project, you re-evaluate, and you start with the next project, and so on and so forth. What the audit did for us was it really showed how much the business uses data and how this is in fact a very long journey. It's not a project. There's no start and end to this. This is it's a paradigm shift in the way the business thinks about data and treats data.
So, I mean, I think the key thing from here is, control risk value, absolutely central to the conversations we have and we had with you. But now we've completed the assessment and you've got the execution phase. How are you going to sort of maintain that, actually realise the benefits of having this data strategy in place? So what are you going to, how are you going to execute on that strategy?
That's the point where we are in this journey. So the next phase is to formulate that control in the steering committee, the data management team, and execute alongside with Hitachi Solutions, training us on the way to in-house the skills to allow ourselves to gain that control and expertise, to then organically grow and take on the projects. We're looking at the initial proof of concept projects at the moment, and there's a great long list of at least 18 to 20 at the moment, so we can't choose all 18.
So how are you prioritising those projects? Because I think that's the key thing. You have your strategy, you have the overall ambition to get more value from your data. How is that steering committee helping you prioritise those projects?
Well, it depends who you speak to. So marketing have one view and operations have another. Fundamentally, at the moment, the primary decision making will be on operation. So what will achieve the most value to improve the operational performance? There are many areas within the business that we could do with the improvements on that. So it's really about, it's a combination of things. It's what can provide the most value the quickest, but also what will deliver the most efficiency operationally within the business.
And seeing that you've got these different things, how do you segment that out of the roadmap over the coming few years? How do you put that in phases and stuff like that?
Well, the anticipation is, from the audit at least, is to iteratively. You take small projects at a time, you reach the end of the project, you re-evaluate, did you achieve your goal, has it produced the value expected, is the approach still true, and then you move to the next step, the next project, and rinse, repeat, really.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Andre. Thank you to Jonathan for taking the trip over here from the UK too for this event. Will you be so kind and tell us a bit more about the assessment?
Sure. So, thank you, Andre. It's been a pleasure to work with GridServe. We've been very fortunate with these guys in that they've been very, very engaged in the process, and it's been essentially a greenfield project in terms of setting up a data strategy and data systems and all the, the component parts. But because we're in Munich and the centre of the German automotive industry, I'm going to continue the metaphor that we started, the are we nearly there yet, have we done our data strategy? And really, what it is about the assessment and the audit is if you're going on a journey, you need to have a map. And you need to understand where you currently are on that map. And that's absolutely vital. And so having a key view of kind of your current maturity, and our colleagues at E.ON spoke about maturity earlier on, lots of different ways of doing it, but you need to understand where you are in that journey, because then you have to be able to continually assess and measure yourself, and work out where these milestones are. So we at Hitachi, this is something we've done many different assessments over the years in many different industries. And what we find is that it is a case of not just knowing where you are, but controlling and having some control over the journey that you're going on. So it's about thinking about, okay, we need to set some milestones, we need to be able to measure those milestones. So as with GridServe, it's been great because they've highlighted some really key projects that are going to generate value quickly. And I think the key aspect of that is that it's about bringing the business with you, and it's about fighting for those business value use cases. So what is the business case for data? And being able to know where you are and know where you're going to on that journey is absolutely essential. So having that assessment gives you something categorically you can take to your board, take to the decision makers, take to the money men or money ladies in the business, and really kind of drive a case for that data. It's not a case of whoever is shouting loudest gets the funding. It's got to be a business case to deliver that society. So I'll just tell you a couple of sort of stories for where we've done this. So we had one customer who was seeking to expand quite rapidly through an M&A program. And if any of you have been involved with acquisition, you'll know that the pain comes later when you have to take all of that data from those acquisitions and then integrate them back into the program. Now, you cannot do that if your data is not carefully managed with appropriate governance before you start. You have to get your house in order, and that's what the assessment essentially gave this organisation. So they wanted to create a set of golden data, something that was understood and really address the challenges of not having a common business language to describe performance. So you've got two teams telling you two different answers from the same data set. You can't manage an M&A program on that basis unless you have that clear view of what your data actually means, so you get the same answer if you ask different people. And so in doing that, we create a common language, we establish data owners, but we're driving towards a common goal, and it's part of a program. There are milestones on the journey. And so what this assessment and this data strategy enabled this organisation to do was to go out and acquire 8 new sites across Germany. We're all in the health and fitness industry up in the north. They're fantastic clubs. If you're ever in the Hamburg region, I recommend them to you. But that was, that they had a clear goal, but they had to go through certain milestones to get there in order to kind of bring that all together. Another interesting aspect to running a data assessment is to be aware of the different levels of maturity that you have in your organisation. And we've encountered this quite recently with a UK-based health provider, where the levels of maturity are incredibly different across different parts of the organisation, where you have a very, very advanced maturity on one side and a very entry level, not much there on the other side of the organisation. So you're trying to integrate and provide a strategy that will incorporate a holistic view of the organisation across these different levels. And that brings with it its own kind of spice and its own politics, and how do you address that? So I think the key things with the assessment is that you do need to be holistic. You do need to follow the process, organisation, technology in the context of data and analytics, as has been identified by previous speakers. That POTI model, which is very well known to everyone, the context of data is super important, because you have to address the people side of things. You have to set up the right organizational structures within the organization. You have to get the buy-in from the management teams, and that is absolutely crucial. And in terms of establishing that that approach and those milestones, and giving the organisation the maps that you can bring them along that journey with lighthouse projects, proof of concepts, and wins that they can demonstrate the value, is absolutely crucial to kind of success. So my advice for anyone in the room, whether it's a greenfield site or whether it's a brownfield site, is to get that map, get that roadmap, and understand where you're going on the journey, because you won't, it's all about turning it into an expedition. An expedition changes you. An expedition, if you think about it, a journey gets you from A to B. I have no data strategy, I now have a data strategy. But how do I make sure that I continue that data strategy so it's aligned with my business strategy, and so that it drops value as I go along it? And that's really what an expedition is. It changes you as an organisation. Imagine if you're going to climb a mountain. It changes you as a person. You get at the top, you're inspired, you're fitter, you're happier, you've achieved something. And that's really what the expedition side of things is all about. You're generating value for the business as you go through the process. And I think that's the one thing that we note that unifies all of our customers, the themes that we see, is to do that with control. And that's really the key message that we kind of take away. But I'll hand over back to Oliver. Hopefully that's enough information on the assessment.
Thank you, Jonathan. So, what Jonathan mentioned here, the theme of being on an expedition is pretty central to what we're doing with our customers to kind of get that "are we there yet" question to go away. Not in the point that we're silencing all the people that are asking, but to at any point of our trip be able to say, we're here, we're going there, we've got provisions for enough time, we've got everything covered, we've thought of everything. And that's not only the technological side, say, okay, we're on the right product, or we have the right data sources in it. It includes learning, change management, and everything. All these aspects are covered. And that means whoever is asking, whether it's finance or whether it's HR, saying, okay, are people happy with what you're doing? That's a question that's very rarely asked. Are people happy with the trip you sent them on? That's something you can answer, and that leaves you with a lot of control about what is happening. But it's also very important, and it's even more important, kind of the more you are immature in what you do, that you are in control of the risk you are taking. A lot of things you are doing, and we've heard before that it's hard to get people. It might cost you a few employees that do not agree, or over time don't think everything has been communicated. So all the risks, from just losing money to losing potential to actually not being the first in the market to do it, are covered if you approach it in a very agile way of saying, okay, I'm remeasuring and realigning and making sure I'm still on track. And so you can focus on actually creating value. And I've always thought at one point in time, we think of the past where you've got projects that just reached the point where you say, okay, we've successfully implemented X, or even only if we've got the speaker before, now we have a data mesh. It's all about saying that you have created value that your business can actually use. And so with that, we conclude our talk. We've got a couple more minutes left for questions. If you have any, the microphone's already moving, so lift up your hand and I will find you. No questions. That's good, we did everything right. Should you later find that you actually do have questions, we've got a stand outside, so feel free to approach us, and our colleagues who are also at the stand, they will gladly answer your questions a bit later.
Thanks very much, Andre, for joining some Grid Serve.
Thank you for
Thank you
having
for
me.
listening.